It's Mark Allen's One-on-One, and today we're going one-on-one with Tim Berglund, a former NHL player. Want to learn a little bit more about Tim Berglund. Tim, thanks for joining us today.
No, my pleasure, Mark.
We want to talk a little bit about Tim Berglund. You had a great career, and of course you're back here, and you've had a great career with coaching with the Prowlers. Let's go back. Let's talk about Tim when he was a little. Where were you born and raised?
Sure. Well, Thief River. Yeah. It was. I suppose it was a while ago now, but I grew up here and came back ultimately. But it's been fun, and it was a nice childhood. We had a lot of fun, a lot of sports. It's a fun time of year. Obviously, now you see all the kids out and about. But it was a great time.
So, raised in Thief River Falls, went to Lincoln High School, went to the schools here.
Yeah.
Were you more than a hockey player? Did you play other sports too?
Yeah, it was kind of the standard. You know, it was baseball in the summer, and I did football up until grade 9. Then I ran cross country and played hockey, and then had opportunity to play baseball until my senior year. That year, I was able to play some hockey event post high school, and back then if you did that, anything, it was kind of, now they can do kind of extra things past high school, but back then if you did it, you were ineligible to play any other sport. It was some sort of an all-star team, and we went out east, went out to Boston to play Team Minnesota, and so then I forfeited my baseball, and Charlie Cornell gave me some advice then. He said, your future may not be in baseball. Probably will be in hockey, so go ahead and do it. Yeah.
Okay. So after high school, then more into hockey. What did you do after high school?
It was my senior year was kind of a whirlwind. It was going into the year. My older brothers both played college hockey. Scott and Todd both played at Northland back then, and then they went on to St. Thomas, and my plans were kind of the same thing. I just was going to play. I wanted to play hockey. And Northland, St. Thomas, I had no idea what I was going to do. And then I just had a very good start to my senior year in high school. And all of a sudden, colleges and pro teams were coming by and watching and talking to me. And it was all kind of new to me. My first team that talked to me, I always say the story, was the Hartford Whalers, which was a pro team back then, and they moved down to Carolina now. They're the Hurricane, and their scout came and talked to me after the game, and I didn't know, I had a clue who the Hartford Whalers were. I thought it was a college team, and so it was a very exciting time. A lot of things happening, and ultimately I ended up going to Minnesota, choosing Minnesota, and then got drafted that year, that summer, right out of high school. June, I was on my way down to the cities, actually. I'd already signed with Minnesota, and so that summer I was going to go down there, train and skate. And on my way down on the radio is when I heard I was drafted, and that was by Washington. So
you heard over the radio?
Yeah. It was.
Of course, there wasn't all the cell phones back then, was there?
Yeah, no phones or anything. Yeah, it was on the radio. They kind of went through the Minnesotans that were drafted. I was luckily the first Minnesotan taken that year. And a U.S. kid. The U.S., it was in 1983, so it was just after the Olympic success in 80. Yeah. And so they were starting to take a lot more Minnesota kids, or U.S. kids, I should say, back then. And that wasn't the norm. And so I credit them a lot to helping further U.S. So, I ended up getting drafted and played 4 years at Minnesota and moved on, yeah.
Exciting times. You mentioned how it was a whirlwind. And as a young kid, a lot came at you in a hurry, didn't it?
Very, very much so. And, you're kind of inundated with it. Coach Wendell Grand was my coach at the time, helped a lot in talking to me. My family, of course. We didn't have a lot of necessarily people with experience in it. I know Tom Goddard went to North Dakota at the time, and some other people to talk to. But I was getting recruited by other schools out east, other schools in this area, and I don't know, for some reason I just chose Minnesota. It just seemed like the place to be. Minnesota kid, and a great 4 years there. Good hockey. And my upbringing here. I mean, the school, how it prepared me for college. Honestly, I felt that college was almost easier than high school. Once I got to college, like I say, with the schooling, the education I had here, and But it was a big step, obviously, going from Thief River to Minnesota. And the campus, it was huge. It was 60,000 or whatever it was, just as at the schools. But right away, you get involved with your team. We got there a month early. You got your group. You get together as a group, and so it became a small school pretty quick.
Right, and a family.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
so you go through college. You move on after college, and you get into the pros. Now, so take us after college. What happened?
I was drafted out of high school, and the norm then was to play 4 years of college. You didn't see a lot of kids like they do now, and it was structured differently with how contracts and getting drafted. There's a certain window now that kids have and teams have. If you get drafted, you have so many years before you lose that person's rights, if you will. And I'll probably get half of it wrong, but from the way I understand it, for us, you were drafted, you were there, and so I played my 4 years and then went to camp in Washington. I didn't have a contract or anything at that point. I was drafted in the fourth round. Which is a decent pick. It's not a first-round pick where you're surely not guaranteed anything, but, most first-round picks are going to be given the opportunity to fail, where a mid-round pick like I was, like I say, I was the first one out of Minnesota, but I was the fourth round, I believe. It was third or fourth round anyway, which is a decent pick, but it wasn't necessarily, like I say, a high pick. So I went to camp without a contract. Back then, it's 70 kids at camp, kind of vying for probably 40 spots, when you have 20 on the main team in the NHL, and then you have another 20 or so in the minors. And so, going to camp without a contract, and you have to earn your stripes pretty quick, and it's a different game. It was much more physical. It's a pro style game, a lot of fighting, that kind of stuff that I wasn't used to. But it's kind of sink or swim at that point, and it's what I wanted to do, and it was my one opportunity. So I had a very good camp. Ended up getting a contract right at the end of camp, and then kind of moved on from there. I spent, I guess, over the next course of the next 12 years playing pro hockey. It was the first year and a half playing in the minors. I was in Binghamton, New York. I was in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and then ended up going to move their team to Baltimore and playing and that time was the American League, and now it's still the American League. But then ended up getting called up to Washington, and then playing there and playing in the playoffs for a number of years there and having some success with the team, and then got picked up by Tampa in the expansion draft when Tampa started. That would have been in 92 or 3. They picked me up in the expansion draft and went down there, played a couple of years there, and then I got picked up in the waiver draft back to Washington and ended up spending a little time there at the end of that year. And then I went to, I went to the New York Islanders that next year for a training camp, and then that was when the lockout was, and the owners locked the players out, and I ended up signing in Chicago. In the International Hockey League at that time. They were just starting. The league had been there forever, but they just started up a number of different teams in Chicago and Detroit and Las Vegas and San Antonio, a lot of big market cities. And so I ended up signing. An old coach of mine from Tampa was in Chicago and offered me a contract. At that point, I was married and had kids were on the way. And I had a nice contract for 3 years, and it just seemed like the right thing to do at that time. And the team, unbelievable team, great ownership. They're still there today. And I had a short stint over in Finland as well. So it was a long career, a lot of movement, but it was just a great experience.
It sounds like it. It sounds like you enjoyed a lot of it.
Yes.
Tim Berglund is our guest today. And, of course, after a great career, Tim, and all this, you come back home. Mm-hmm. And what brought you back home?
Yeah, I guess just my family and raising kids, my kids here. Once I retired from hockey in 1999, then I have a lake cabin down by Fergus, and I ended up living there for four years and coaching the Fergus hockey team. But then the rink was getting built here, and just a job opportunity. Someone had asked if I'd be interested in coming back, and I was. And so I ended up coming back, and it was always kind of a dream to come back and coach your hometown. And and the opportunity was there. My brother was coaching the team at the time and asked if I wanted to be an assistant, and I jumped at that, and it was just a lot of fun. And obviously, like I say, the big thing is just getting my kids back and giving them the opportunity to grow up in this kind of a community.
A lot of us don't realize the blessing we have of having you here. I know you don't think that, but we do know that because there's a lot of talent that you've brought here to the local team. So, and it's fun to have you in town.
Good,
so,
thank you.
Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Tim Berglund with Mark Allen on One on Thief River Falls Radio.